Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, Ottawa split their weekend back-to-back, losing in Columbus, but getting a shutout on home ice against the Seattle Kraken.
And the Senators have made a transaction that leads us to believe that Ridly Greig could be coming back to the lineup.
We'll discuss how that can affect line combinations and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 930 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where a like, comment, subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Make sure you turn on the bell for notifications as well, with the POSTCAST live after every Ottawa Senators game. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Today is Monday, December 4th, and Pilsy, what better way to get a 4-2 loss where you gave up 4 in a row against Columbus, that bad taste out of your mouth, than with a 2-0 shutout on home ice?
Yeah, I mean, Ross, if you would have asked me before this weekend how I thought this split would go, a 4-2 loss against Columbus followed by a 2-0 win against Seattle is not what I would have predicted. But hey, we'll take it, especially the shutout win. I feel like adds a little extra boost, right? If they beat the Kraken 2-1, sure, that's still a nice win. You're happy about the 2 points, you move on. But for a team that the story has been bad defensive structure, giving up goals after having a lead, a la the Columbus game, a 2-0 lead that ends up seeing Columbus score 4 unanswered goals for a 4-2 victory for the Blue Jackets. The fact that the Senators were able to shut out the Seattle Kraken at home and finally give the good people at the Canadian Tire Center something to be happy about, to celebrate, I think that's a big boost. So although would have been nice to beat the Eastern Conference team, especially the other team that's down in the basement with you, maybe try to leapfrog them in points, but we'll take it. We'll take it, Ross. I'm not going to be too picky here after November.
Hey, at least we're coming off a win, right? Going into a tough week where 3 really talented opponents, and I know I hate saying that about Saturday's game, but the Red Wings keep rolling, so got to give them some flowers. The Leafs on Thursday night, I'll be boots on the ground for that one. And on Tuesday, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League, the New York Rangers, who hung on to beat the San Jose Sharks 6-5 last night, but they are still rolling as a team. They sit, atop the Metropolitan Division. They're 18-4-1 on the year.
The Ottawa Senators have 18 points. The Rangers have 18 wins.
Games in hand, Pilsy.
Games in hand. So in games in hand, we trust.
We got those sweet, sweet games in hand. 18,159 people went to the game Friday or Saturday. Love that. The attendance was great, and the team put on a show. And all men, women, kids, children, infants in attendance can say that they were there when Tim Stützle became the first player in Senators history to record 200 NHL points before the age of 22.
Oh, whoa. I hadn't heard that version of the stat. I know, I think it was I forget which broadcast, but they put up the stat that Timmy was among one of the youngest players fewest games played to get to 200 points. But that's an interesting little wrinkle there.
Well, shout out to John Perlberg. He's a TSN stats guru. So he tweeted out that graphic but with his own little caption saying just that, because Martin Havlat was 22 years old, 308 days. Marian Hossa was 23 years old and 12 days. Brady Tkachuk, 23 years, 36 days. And Alexei Yashin, 23 years, 80 days. Those are all pretty good players themselves.
Yep, absolutely. That's a name you want to have your you want to be grouped in if you're Tim Stützle. So congrats to Timmy Stützle, the fire helmet holder.
Hey, and I love the video afterwards. Everybody mentioning, hey, just keep it, Forsy. Forsberg had it from the win in Sweden. Crazy, like they hadn't won since Sweden, Pilsy. Like we were getting a little wild here, but good on Forsy. 1 goal against in his last 2 wins, which gets us to what we're going to talk about next segment, where it is a curious case of Anton Forsberg. But I'm not done breaking down these games. Pilsy, you and Martian had both postcasts, so I'm ready to spill my takes here, but mostly on Saturday, because I did make a special appearance there right after my shift. I jumped on, and I said my 2 cents. I put a pile of thoughts out into the air on Friday, but on Saturday, I mean, this was just kind of as team oriented a win. Now you talk about the shutout. You know what? That's a team shutout right there. Forsy was great. 23 block shots. Pilsy, that's got to be among the most they've had in a single game all year. Love the one at the end from Brandstrom. Forsy goes right over there. That's the type of camaraderie I think that can really get this team on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, and Jake Sanderson had 6 block shots. So when one of your star defensemen is putting the body out like that and sacrificing, everybody's got to do it, and everybody followed suit. Tarasenko had a couple nice blocks as well. So you got to commend the D-core and the rest of the team for playing a good defensive game.
So Sanderson, 6 blocks yesterday. He got the fight against Florida. Like, are we sure that he's not just like a defensive, enforcer back there?
Yeah, this isn't a smooth skating 5th overall pick. This is a physical, bruising, tough shutdown defenseman, Jake Sanderson.
In his last 5 games, he's got a fight, 8 shots on goal, and he's got 12, 15, 18 block shots in his last 5 games. So Sandy's laying it out there on the line, and should mention, though, no points in his last 5 games after being on a bit of a heater there, where he had 1 goal and 4 assists for 5 points in his previous 6 games. So another opportunity this week, and now with Chabot, some of that pressure being taken off him. You were a little critical on putting Sanderson on his right. I mean, somebody's got to play there, right? But with him and Jacob Chychrun, what did you think of that pair?
Yeah, I was nervous going into that. I thought it was going to be a kind of reflection of what Chabot and Chychrun were, where they're just swapping sides constantly. Nobody's really in position, and it's kind of a fluid system back there, which maybe can work, but initially with at least Chabot and Chychrun I'm talking about, it didn't seem to work that great. But Sanderson and Chychrun seem to work okay. Now, I'm not convinced I'm comfortable with that in the long term, especially Ross. And this is the key to it. If Sanderson and Zub hadn't been an incredible shutdown pair, then maybe I don't care that much about it. But the fact that that pair was just so good, it just seems crazy to me that a team that struggles with defensive structure wouldn't keep their top shutdown pair together. But then what do I know? They have their best defensive game of the year, and they get a shutout against the Kraken with this. So I guess keep it rolling. As Martian said, don't change a thing. If we're able to keep this rolling, don't change it.
Well, DJ Smith wasn't listening to us on Friday when we said limit Thomas Chabot's ice time. He plays 26-41, albeit after the second period, the Sens were chasing the game. So I'm sure a lot of that minute was in the third period. Whereas against Seattle, Pilsy, 22-29 for Thomas Chabot, which leads me into looking at these peculiar ice times. What were your thoughts on going with the old 11-7? Because we know one of our friends here on this show absolutely loves going 11-7.
That's absolutely sick.
Yeah, I said it. Guy Boucher somewhere on the Leafs bench is smiling with that one. But you know what? I don't love 11-7. I wouldn't even say I like 11-7. But there are times when it makes sense to do it. And I thought this was a decent time to do it, Ross. You're on the second game of a back-to-back, so get an extra defenseman in there, help those guys out, especially Chabot just returning from injury. And like you mentioned, you played 26 minutes that night. Get some more fresh legs. Now, mind you, JBD and Travis Hamonic, I think, played a combined 13 minutes. So it's not like they were really taking a lot of the load off there. And then Zach McEwen ends up playing 3 minutes. So really, you're going you're going 11-6 or 10-6 here, which math guy didn't really make a lot of sense there. But what I do like about it is we've been talking about it. That line of Kubalik, Chartier, and Tarasenko has just been a waste of time. Unfortunately, Chartier, look, I like him. Great fourth line center, good defensive player, but not a guy you should be putting two of your top newly acquired snipers with if you're trying to get them going offensively. So with 11-7, it kind of rotates the centerman a little bit more, and it gave Tarasenko some opportunities to play up with some of the more talented players. He looked really good with Stützle and Batherson as well. So from that aspect, I did like 11-7, but I don't think that's a combination we should be going to all the time here.
I don't think we're going to see it on in tomorrow's game against the New York Rangers because looks like Ridly Greig could be back. We'll discuss what that will have to do with their Senators line combinations in the third segment. But Pilsy, going back to Tim Stützle real quick, because Seattle Kraken fans were all up in arms on the pick play from Justin Schultz. And I just want to note, man, like, say what you want about Tim Stützle. This guy is a master manipulator with the puck. And with that, he puts himself in some uncomfortable situations and he draws penalties, dude. He's got the second best net penalty differential in the National Hockey League. Only Lucas Raymond, the player drafted one spot after him, is one above him. And that's because Lucas Raymond's only taken 2 penalties, whereas Timmy's taken 4. So nobody has drawn. Oh, that's us also. Well, penalties drawn is different because when you go just by penalties drawn, they're counting coincidentals, which I don't think should, right? Because Matthew and Brady are 1 and 2 in penalties drawn, but half the time they're going to the penalty box with them. So I like the net penalty differential because it takes away, how many you've taken as well. So Tim Stützle second in the National Hockey League in net penalty differential. So I want that to stay going. And the Sens power play, I mean, they didn't do anything really against Seattle, but they didn't really need to either because at least they weren't giving up momentum, right? Like those power plays didn't end with you being like, we didn't even get set up. So at least they were able to do that. And then, man, one more note on a player who's really stepped up. Like we got to mention Drake Batherson here because we were hard on him at the start of the year, up, down the lineup. Where was he going to find his route? 10 points in his last 10 games, including, I believe, 6 goals.
Yeah, Batherson certainly has kind of turned it up. He's been rewarded with power play time. That's a guy we all know, Drake Batherson, kind of at least the recent version of Drake Batherson thrives a lot more in the power play. So it's good to get him going. But Ross, I almost feel like DJ Smith and the coaching staff have to find a way to have Drake Batherson and Tarasenko be comfortable and be able to provide offense at the same time. Like either it's Tarasenko's up and now Batherson is down in the lineup, or Batherson is up and that buries Tarasenko. So like I mentioned, maybe we see more like they connected on that goal. Tarasenko, Stützle, and Batherson, I'm not sure. But I just feel like there shouldn't be a situation where one of those guys has to sacrifice their offensive capabilities.
In Drake Batherson's last 10 games, 6 goals, 10 points, even for those who are still noticing that he is -5 on the season, even in his last 10 games. So something to build off of for Drake Batherson, shooting 21% in that in that stretch as well, averaging just under 18 minutes per game. Is worth noting, -5 on the year. He was -4 against Buffalo in one game. So it does kind of add up. But for a guy who, I mean, he's a career -67. So, I mean, definitely something that you're hoping will improve over time. And as we've said time and time again, we watched this guy dominate as a two-way playmaker in Belleville. He was that in junior as well. So hopefully this just continues to make strides forward because he can be a real difference maker, making just a shade under $5 million for the next 4 or 5 seasons. Okay, on the other side, Anton Forsberg, when he's good, he's great. When he's bad, he's awful. Ridly Greig's back in the lineup, and the Belleville Sens get a big win. The K-Train is chugging along. Zach Ostapchuk with a pair of goals, and Igor Sokolov puts a one-timer into the back of the net. So we'll get into all that on the other side. This is Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper. Guys, if you want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. As the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contents. What I like about the Sleeper app is they've got a group chat functionality. You can easily talk smack to your friends, let them know you got a good lineup coming up, and time is money. Entries can be made in less than 1 minute. So you're racing home, picking up dinner at 6:55. You're worried about 7 o'clock puck drop. You got tons of time to get those picks in on the Sleeper app. So you got to choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Sens fans. 100 times payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right so you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Only available for our friends in the U.S. for now.
Today's episode is also brought to you by my happy place, by Shawarma Palace. You know how much I love Shawarma Palace. I talk about it all the time. And in under 3 days,
Here you
I will
go.
be eating at Shawarma Palace. Now, with Shawarma Palace, you know you're going to get an enormous platter. Like you just are. You're going to be fed for at least a day, if not two. And what I love about Shawarma Palace is that they make sure that the ingredients are always fresh, always delicious. It's always a welcoming environment when you walk into Shawarma Palace at any of their 7 locations. Now, they started with just one store on Rideau Street back in 1997. Since then, it's grown into what it is today, which is a Sens supporting. Just like, what would you even describe Shawarma Palace as to someone who hasn't been to Ottawa? Like, I don't want to say an institution because that makes it seem like it's just, more corporate. Whereas these guys are boots on the ground. Abbas is behind the bar. He's shaving the halal meat. He's getting it all going. They always make sure that they're a part of the community at Shawarma Palace. And when you head in there, let them know Locked On Senators sent you. We love our friends at Shawarma Palace. Go eat like a royal. Go eat at Shawarma Palace. All right, Pilsy, here we go. The Senators, 1 game below 500, but they've got a chance to do something special on Tuesday. That's getting back to 10-10. Still no OT or shootout losses. They're 2-0, both in Sweden when going past extra time. Before we get into Anton Forsberg, though, I do want to give some stick taps to the man on the other side, Joey Decord, for those longtime listeners of Locked On Senators and even making sense of the Sens. Yep. Dax gave us so much time on the come up, man, but going back to Arizona State, getting him on the show then. And it's really cool seeing him being a full-time NHL goalie. That loss wasn't on him, man. He makes 26 saves on 28 shots. Had that great save on the backhand from Stützle when he was in all alone. That was awesome. And hey, did you see the Good Samaritan move by him as well? Shabby was down injured a little bit, hobbling, and Joey gave him a little push on the back to get him back to the bench a little quicker. Good guy, great goalie, and nice to see him doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey Dax is getting a big opportunity in Seattle. He's played consistently over the last little stretch here, and they have no problem turning to him. And like you mentioned, that loss, 2-0 loss, not on Dax. So yeah, glad to see you found a home in Seattle.
Now, if you had to pick Joey Decord or Philip Gustafson to return on their current contracts, I ask you because Ottawa's seen both of them in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is there's layers to this question for me, Ross. I still am a full believer. If you guys have been following the show for a while, I've been a believer in Gustafson. I was fully on board with them keeping Gustafson in the expansion draft. That doesn't mean I wanted Joey Decord to get selected. Just making that clear. That is not the way I wanted. I had Chris Tierney wearing those Kraken colors, Ross. I really was hoping that that's the way it was going to go and they could keep both those young tendies. But I think I would go with Dax. That's a good contract. What's he making? 1.2?
If that.
I know it's over $1 million. That's for sure. It's like a 2-year, 1.2 deal.
Correct. 1.2.
Yeah. So that's a nice deal. And I really felt, and I mean, Philip Gustafson kind of made this clear himself. So it kind of confirms my feeling that Gustafson just didn't mesh here. Like it just seemed like the way he was developed didn't work out for him.
The yo-yo development. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down.
Yeah, and I don't blame him for that. And I think his comments, some Sens fans took offense to it. I didn't. I thought they were fair comments. The way he never really knew where he was going to play, when he was starting. They kind of botched his development. I feel like that's fair to say.
COVID also played a role, right? You had to carry that third.
Fair.
You had to carry a third goalie at all times.
Definitely. But I feel like Joey Decord wasn't really a victim. Like, Decord was around for most of that as well, and he didn't really fall victim to that either. And I think Decord really meshed with these guys a lot better. And I really see, like, Joey Dax, from what we've talked to him about, this is a very focused guy. Like, he's doing VR training with headsets, and he's working on the mental side of his game a lot too. This isn't to say Gustafsson isn't. I just know this because we've talked to Decord about it. Yeah, Joey Dax would be, I think, welcome back with open arms by all Sens fans.
Welcome to the dark side. I know we've been on opposite sides of that debate in the past, but I got to stick with my guy as well. But our guy is Anton Forsberg. Pilsy, you noted something from our friend Ian Mendez this morning that really caught your attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone kind of realized this, but to see it written down is absolutely astounding. Mendez writes in his article, in the 4 games Forsberg has won, he's virtually unbeatable, and that's legit. His numbers in the 4 games he's won is a 980 save percentage. So he's stopping 98% of all shots and a 0.98 goals against. Absolutely phenomenal numbers in the 4 games he's won. Let's turn the page to the 4 games he's lost. Sporting a 766 save percentage. So you're going down, math guy, 22% in your losses in save percentage. And the goals against average skyrockets to a 5.65 goals against average. Like, that contrast between when he wins and loses, that's got to be the largest spread of any goalie this season for sure, but probably even in recent history in an 8-game sample size. Like, that is absolutely wild that is happening. So we got to find a way to have Forsy meet. I'm not even going to say in the middle, Ross. If he meets in the middle, that lands him where he's at right now, which isn't that great on the wrong side of 3 goals against average, 3.03, and on the wrong side of 900 save percentage at a 0.882 save percentage on the 8 games he's played this season. So we got to find some way to smooth this path out for Anton Forsberg. Otherwise, the Ottawa Senators, this up-down roller coaster ride is going to continue.
As we discussed, Ottawa gets the shutout against the Seattle Kraken. Now they get a shutout in what was their 19th game of the season. That is the quickest they've gotten a shutout under DJ Smith in the season. I'm just going back here looking, and in 2019-20, the first year DJ Smith was behind the bench. Guess how many games it took them to get their first shutout?
35.
Guess how many games it took the Ottawa Senators to get their first shutout in the COVID-shortened season? 72 games. Pilsy, how many games to get their first shutout?
35.
No.
More?
It's kind of a trick question. They did not get a single shutout that year.
Oh, damn. I mean, I should have guessed that. Yeah. Wow. That's tough.
Then the following year, the COVID-shortened season, it took until game 45 when Matt Murray got a 23-save shutout against the Montreal Canadiens. So it took 45 games for them to get a shutout. The following year, it took till game 25 when they shut out the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-0. And then last year, they got their first shutout of the season in game 28 against the Anaheim Ducks. So there you have it. This year, they get it in game 19. So onwards and upwards.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into this later, Ross, but I do wonder where they're going to go increase for the New York Rangers. Part of me thinks give Forsy another chance here.
Let's discuss after the break. We'll also get into what we expect line combinations to be with Ridly Greig. The Senators are skating at 10:30 this morning, so check us out on Twitter at Sens Central. We'll let you know when we get line combinations. All that is next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Guys, when you're drafting a fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same with a business team? Just handpick all the best employees you have? Well, if that's what you've thought, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one cohesive place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills. Why would you do that when you can do it all just on Indeed? Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search. And with Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resume on Indeed match your job description. You can invite them to apply right away. Indeed does the hard work for you. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right, Pillsy. It is a Monday on a busy week for the Ottawa Senators, a busy week for Locked On Sens. Stay tuned. We'll get a crossover Locked On Leafs, get Mikey DiStefano in the mix. It might be live. I'm going to go see Mikey real quick on Wednesday on my way to the nation's capital. Sens and Leafs Thursday night, but before that, they've got the New York Rangers on Tuesday. Pillsy, just looking around the league, man. This is the time for Ottawa to make their push, right? You look at Tampa, they've lost 4 games in a row. Buffalo, they've lost 3 games in a row. Montreal, they lost in overtime. Of course, they had to get a loser point against Detroit, but still, not really worried about Montreal, to be honest with you. When you're looking at games in hand, Ottawa's got 6 games in hand on both Tampa and Buffalo. That, A, is ridiculous, and B, is giving them, like, this is their opportunity right now to make a bit of a push. Now, the Leafs, they're 10 points up. They have also played 3 more games, but that head-to-head matchup on Thursday, that could be a 4-point swing. This is an enormous week with 2 divisional games, Detroit on Saturday, Leafs on Thursday. This, I'm not, like, I think just by what I said there, like, this Rangers game isn't a must-win. I think if they lose, you're just like, oh, like, it sucks, but it's Thursday and Saturday for me that are like, you better bring your A game to those 2. How would you want to organize your goalies? Would you just be looking at Tuesday, or are you looking ahead and trying to plot out Korpisalo and Forsberg?
I think for now, Ross, I'm just looking at Tuesday. I'd like to give Forsy another chance here, coming off a 39 save shutout. Like, that's about as hot as it gets, and up against a New York Rangers team that, and Martian and I were talking about this, and we've talked about this on the show as well, Ross. Forsy and Korpisalo, for that case, seem to do better when they get a lot of shots. So up against teams like the New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Detroit Red Wings, they're probably going to see a lot of shots. So I have no issue at all with giving Forsy the next start. And if he has another hot start, I don't even think it's that crazy to let him go up against the Leafs as well. So for now, Ross,
he's got great numbers against the Leafs too.
Yeah, exactly. So for now, I'm riding with Forsy.
And Forsy got the win in Toronto earlier this year, didn't he? Or was that Corpy?
I've got his game logs right here. No, that was Corpy.
No, it's Korpisalo. No, all good. Yeah. So you're looking at a situation with Forsberg or Korpisalo. It's like you want one of them to just grab the reins, right? For like a 5-6 game stretch.
I don't know if I would go 5 or 6 games, but if they're hot, I would have no issue going 3 or 4 games, just because for this team to be successful, Ross, this tandem has to work. And if you're having guys getting cold, especially guys like Forsberg and Korpisalo are used to playing in a decent amount of games. Both those guys have been relied upon by their teams in the past. I don't want to leave guys sitting on the bench too much here. And especially, Ross, with how busy the schedules are here, I don't want to burn any goalie out as well, because there's not a lot of times in between games.
Well said. Let us know in the comments who starts for you Tuesday against the New York Rangers at home, Anton Forsberg or Joonas Korpisalo. And Corpy, like, a couple of those goals maybe against the Blue Jackets you want, but there were some brutal giveaways and some pretty, like the Chabot one in particular, where he just gets his pocket picked right in front. However,
And there's some tips and stuff. Like it wasn't terrible goals for Corpy on that one.
But when you're out shooting a team like the Senators did on Friday, 43-23, the score should probably be flipped rather than losing 4-2. Claude Giroux, though, did get his 6th goal of the year. Claude Giroux was playing in his 100th game as an Ottawa Senator on Friday night. He makes that 101 games with the game on Saturday against the Seattle Kraken. So in 101 games for the Ottawa Senators, Claude Giroux is up to 96 points and 41 goals and 58.7% in the dot. That's better than his career percentage with the Philadelphia Flyers. So this guy is still at the top of his game, and it would be a shame to waste any more of his time as the 36-year-old is still producing at a very high rate. Now, Giroux's played mentor a little bit as well. We saw last year playing a lot with this gentleman, Ridly Greig. As Ridly Greig returns, we expect returns to the lineup on Tuesday. That's because the Senators have reassigned Matthew Highmore down to Belleville. Highmore, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none type player, was killing penalties for Ottawa. 6 games, averaging under 8 minutes, and it was only a 6-minute game on Friday for him against Columbus. They were caught out there for that 4th goal against, and I know a lot of people noting that DJ left that line out after they let in the goal. It's like, what, just keep doing your thing. But I think that experiment probably mercifully comes to an end, at least for now. Like, it's not like, you'd be kind of embarrassed to have him back in the lineup, but and we'll get to remind me at the end of the show, Roby's red hot down in Belleville since being reassigned. So does he deserve another chance eventually, or are you just banking on Ridly Greig being back up in the mix? Where would you want him to slot? Because this is a guy who, when he was out of the lineup with this high ankle sprain, he was leading all rookies in points. He had 7 points in 9 games. Now nobody's catching Connor Bedard anymore. He's up to 11 goals on the season. Forget points. 11 goals for Connor Bedard. But Ridly Greig was certainly playing great and looked awesome on a line with Matthew Joseph and Vladimir Tarasenko. But then you'd be disrupting 3 lines if you are, or 2 lines, because Tarasenko's on the 3rd line right now. But how would you put Ridly Greig back into this mix?
I'm putting him back with Joseph and Tarasenko, Ross. Even if it means shaking the rest of things up, I believe that gives Tarasenko the best opportunity for success. That's when he was thriving. Joseph continues to do what he's been doing all season long. He had a great goal up against Seattle, and then that allows you to kind of have a more balanced lineup. So right away, Ross, I'm throwing him back on that line with Joseph and Tarasenko.
Okay, so then how would the rest of your top 9 look? Because if you're the Ottawa Senators here and you've kind of used Joseph as your spark plug on different lines, he was in a situation up with Timmy last couple games where that was work as well. So who would you move up then to play on that line with Stützle and Batherson?
So my lines would go as follows: top line, Brady, Timmy, Giroux.
So you're done with the experiment of having Norris up there?
Yeah, just because I feel like that Brady, Timmy, Giroux line can have so much success, and you know what? I'm okay with moving Norris and Batherson down in the lineup. They haven't really, I mean, other than Batherson lately has been hot, but
at least Norris is shooting the puck a little bit more. I think it was Friday, right? He had 7 shots on goal. And then he had 3 more against Seattle. But yeah, he's pointless in 3 and has 1 assist in his last 5 games.
Yeah, so I'm going Brady, Timmy, Giroux. Then I'm going Joseph, Greig, Tarasenko. Then I'm going Kubalik, Norris, Batherson. And then the 4th line, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, but yeah.
Guys being dudes on the 4th line.
Yeah.
But no,
I don't need to see Zach McEwen play 3 minutes a night. I would like to see him play 0 minutes a night.
I was going to say, spin zone. Would you rather Zach McEwen play 3 minutes a night or 9 minutes a night?
0 is the answer. Of those 2 options, 0.
I saw a tweet. I wish I could give it credit, but someone saying it, and we were of the mind. It's like, hey, look, it's a league minimum deal. We were kind of going off of what Claude Giroux said. You and I both like a little gumption in the lineup, but I saw someone tweet. They said Zach McEwen's getting paid league minimum, and it still feels like too much.
For now, look, I don't want to write him off. They got him for 3 years. He seems like a good dude. Claude Giroux backed him up. He's a East Coaster from PEI, so probably salt of the earth guy, but
sick AHLer. He went down there and had a couple talks.
Yeah.
So hey, perfect way to transition into the AHL. And tomorrow we'll have more on the line combos after they happen, after practice, and discuss kind of where things can shake up on the power play as well. Because right now, man, I don't know what's going on with the Sens power play, Pilsy. Eventually, they're going to score more than once in a game.
Yeah. I mean, you got to hope so. I don't want to open this box, but Ross, I'll just throw some breadcrumbs here and then run away.
I was going to say, you're going to open the box.
While the birds can all feed on this, but part of me still thinks, sure, they want to be stable with DJ Smith as head coach. That's fine. Maybe it's time to switch up the assistants and get different looks at power play and shorthanded and show some accountability that, hey, the way this is going is not good enough. We need some X's and O's guys in here. Again, no offense to the assistants right now, but there needs to be some sort of change. And I think that would be a good enough change that it kind of not strikes some fear, but shows that, hey, there can be consequences. And in a way that we're not just trying to axe people, we're trying to find ways to improve here and to give DJ Smith the little feeling that, hey, not everything is comfortable for you here. I think that would be a move that maybe they could look into.
You just look at DJ Smith in his post-game press conference, so relieved on Saturday, so stressed on Friday. But Pilsy, you'll be happy to know this. They have changed responsibilities at the very least. So Jack Capuano's running the power play now. Davis Payne running the penalty kill. That was one of the last moves that Guy Boucher did with his assistant.
I was just about to say that. And that, for me, that is complete desperation, and it doesn't make any sense, really. So,
well, let's see what they can do with this as healthy of a group. And when I say healthy, it's like obviously Mark Kastelik not ready yet, and Shane Pinto still what? We'll do a countdown starting at 10, where it's like 10 games until Shane Pinto. I guess got a sign too, but it seems like
he's probably going to have a conditioning stint, right?
Yes, true.
He's not coming back at game 42. I don't actually know. I'm very sure he's not coming back at game 42.
We've asked this, but we haven't gotten an answer. I'm actually going to reach out to Footy. Maybe he can help me explain this. If you're suspended at the NHL level, could he start his conditioning stint 3 games earlier in Belleville? That's the question. Because he's only suspended from the NHL, right?
Yeah, we did talk about this. Yeah, I don't know the answer. Yeah.
No, but that would help if he can come back, because what I expect, and the rumor is that he's already skating with North Dakota, that he's already in Nodak skating with his old college buddies, and we'll see how long it takes for him to get back up to speed. It takes away the pipeline from North Dakota, goes right to Ottawa with Sanderson and Pinto never putting on a Belleville Sens jersey, but obviously Tyler Cleven's down there, and JBD spent 100+ games down there.
Well, Ross, I don't we kind of know our answer, though? Like, if he could be playing in Belleville, wouldn't they just sign him to a league minimum and he'd be playing now?
No, I think what it would have to be is a conditioning stint, which I believe is a 3-game set, where you can kind of go down there on your way back, because he's going to sign a one-way deal, right, with Ottawa. It's not going to be a 2-way contract. So with
I don't know.
No. It's gonna be a.
I don't know, dude. He doesn't have a lot of leverage these days.
He scored 20 goals. I think what they do is they go.
He got suspended for 41 games.
Yeah, I think it's 1 year, 900,000 is my guess for his contract. Probably, or a 1-by-1. That's my guess. So if he signs that, he can then go on a 3-game conditioning stint without having to clear waivers, which obviously wouldn't do. I would bet on that. Now, when it comes to Pinto, or not Pinto, rather the Belleville Sens, a huge win, a must-win game for them, because they'd been struggling. They finally get a win. Man, Crooker keeps rolling, and it was good to see some of the kids who are legit NHL prospects really prospering down there. Roby Yarventi had a goal and an assist. since coming back from the NHL, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists. 2 goals and 2 assists. Yes, 4 points in 3 games. So the offense is clicking for him. Ostapchuk had 2 goals in that game too. And I don't know if you saw the clip of the K train chugging across the middle, Pillsy.
No.
He got called for charging. It was not even close to a charging. So the same
College
kind of
refs have followed him, eh?
They have. Absolutely tough to see. But at least it was only a 2-minute penalty. But I just hope that he never loses that edge because it's going to do him well at the top level.
Exactly. Yeah. And I had said it for quite a while here. Look out for Ostapchuk to heat up as the season goes on. And he's starting to look a lot more comfortable. He's playing on a line with Yuri Schmeichel and Garrett Pilon, who's actually looked really good too. So that's a nice third line. I thought this was funny though, Ross. Boko Imama on the wing with Cruikshank and Igor. Like that's an interesting guy to toss on that wing, but hey, maybe it's having success. Although Igor's goal was on the power play, as Igor does, but that was a nice win up against divisional rivals for sure.
Dude, how about Crooker with 8 goals on the season already? And he only had 1 goal in his first in his first 7 games, he had 1 goal. So in his last 12, he's got 7. Math guy.
Yep. Yeah, that's
I like that. He deserves an opportunity for me. And he seems like the perfect guy to call up and put on a 4th line because he's going to go out there and be a pest and a rat. Imagine him and Parker Kelly on the same line together.
Well, Andros, this will be his first taste in the NHL. I feel like no buck warm up. You get that little extra juice finally getting your chance. The paychecks look a little nicer. So there's a lot of motivation for Crooker here. So I certainly wouldn't be opposed to giving Cruikshank a chance if need be, but if Ridly Greig is healthy, if he's turning back or coming back rather, I think it's going to remain status quo here.
Yeah, but hey, man, even Crooker's entire AHL, like, you know, coming back from a full year off to score 26 goals, like he's got 78 points in 109 games. Like, it's pretty good for a guy who missed an entire season. So good to see that down there. And our boy Mando, get that save percentage up, pal. He had that tough game earlier this year, but he was great in that win against I almost said Rockford. They're in Manitoba right now. Rochester and Pilsy, not worth nothing. How about the fact that was Sabres star prospect Devin Levi getting lit up in there?
Transitioning from college to the pros as a goalie is very difficult to do. And I feel like Sabres fans, they had the rose-colored glasses on when they thought that he was just going to jump in here and play a full season for them. So it's going to take time.
How much money do you think Sabres fans lost on Devin Levi Calder Trophy winner futures?
Well, hopefully not that much. If you were betting Devin Levi for Calder Trophy winner up against a guy named Connor Bedard, not a great decision there.
No, probably not.
And this is coming from a guy that does Pilsy's parlay, which has been put to bed for a while.
Yeah. We'll wake that up right around the Christmas. I was going to say season, but those cups.
Maybe the new year. We'll see, Ross. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll reset. Dude, you were so red hot at the start of the season.
3-2. Pilsy's parlay of the day now 3-13.
Do you want to see an absolute wild stat alert? And this is, when we're at the tail end of the show, just having fun. You know who the assistant coach is for the Rochester Americans? # Sens abroad. You're never going to get this, but I want to let the people in the cars think this one through.
No, is it Michael Pekka? No.
No.
That's not a Sens abroad. Matthew Pekka is a Sens abroad.
Correct.
I know it's someone notable, but I can't think of it.
Vinny Prospel. Remember that name?
Okay, I would not have guessed that. Wow, nice.
Vaclav Prospel. Never played for the Buffalo Sabres, but spent parts of 4 seasons. Actually scored 22 goals and had 55 points for the Senators one season, 1999-2000. So he had a nice little stint, number 20 back in the day. So cool to see he's getting into coaching. But one other note on Belleville, Levi Marilainen has been reassigned. It's his turn to go down to the ECHL. Had a couple tough starts in a row for Belleville. So not the end of the world. Just get this guy's confidence back up. And again, Mando needs to play too, right? Mando's like 24 years old now, 23, late August birthday as well. So just turned 23. And I think that, 5 games in now, the save percentage is climbing. He had the first start of the year was, 4 goals on 12 shots. Like, you're going to have to battle back from that one. And then, had to come in and do sweep up duty in the third period against Lehigh Valley and let in 3 goals on 18 shots. But in his last couple, he's been solid, man. Had 40 save performance on November 25th and then got the win. First win of the season against Rochester. So we're rooting for Mando, another true friend of the show. Him, Dax, Mads. We're a goalie-friendly show, clearly here, Pilsy, as we do. Any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me are let's ride the high of that shutout win into this week, because the Sens got their work cut out for them. So it's going to be very intriguing how this week goes.
It will be exactly that. Again, follow us on Twitter at Sens Central. We'll let you know when line combinations drop today. We'll have tomorrow's episode right after the morning skates. We'll get you the latest game day preview episode. We'll see if our guy John Chick's around. I know people love when John Chick jumps on the show as well. So stay tuned for all that and more. For today, though, we say goodbye. Have a great day. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.